So welcome to the Node.js Node API team meeting for July 14th, 2023. We'll follow our standard approach of going through issues we've tagged for milestone 11. But before we do that, does anybody have any announcements they'd like to share? If not, okay, I'm going to go open up the list, share my screen. Everybody should be able to see that now, I assume.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, great. So first one, improve the scorecard. So thanks to Kevin, he went through and did a number of, looked at when it needed to be updated. I did go through and apply a number of them, but I think there's a little bit of work to be done. So let's see, I just have to catch up on that. But so that's basically high level, just progressing. We already talked about things. If there's anything news, so there's no news. The list of non-C language bindings, we know Nicola is working on that in the background, but I don't think there's anything discussed this week. On the coverage side, I know last time Kevin mentioned that he was looking a little bit at the coverage job, but I don't think there's any update on that. I haven't done anything on the debug issues, so that would take us to looking at the stale issues. So on that front, I don't see any more. Vladimir is working away at this particular issue in 42651. I don't know. I don't remember, although I haven't looked if there's any updates, like whether it's ready to go take a look at it or not, but that's moving forward. I think this one's kind of waiting on earlier work, so I don't think we have any updates in terms of the or Gabriel, maybe you were looking at this one. Sorry, Gabriel, you're really garbled. Okay, so Gabriel mentioned in the chat that he's going to try and look at that one in this next week. And Chenzong mentioning go ahead.
It's an update for the 1119 issue 1119.
Okay.
I found that there is a previously I misunderstand the issue of the problem, and the core of the problem is that we had to transform the C++ exception in the thread function callbacks back to the Node API exceptions. So in that way, we can avoid crashing the process if the C++ exception is not handled in the thread function callback. So I think that this PR can fix the original poster issue in the original poster. So yeah.
Okay. So
basically, it doesn't need any random semantics to address the issue in Node add-on API. However, we still need to determine if we should turn the flag on by default, so that people can get notified if there is a unhandled rejection thrown in the function callback.
Right. Okay. So yeah, so that's still something we might want to do in the like in the Node API 10 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I took a look at that one and it looked good to me. I don't know if how long has that one been open? Couple weeks. I don't know if anybody else is gonna have time to take a look. I don't know, Gabriel, if you'd have a time to take a look at that one. Or I should go ahead and merge it. Sorry, yeah, we still can't quite hear you. Maybe you can type in the chat. Okay, so he's taking a look, and so we'll get that one landed pretty soon, and that's good. Okay, so I think that covers the stale issues. Anything else we should chat about on those for this week? Okay, if not, I'm going to flip over to I think that we're then just down to looking at issues in the repos themselves. So let's take a look at the ABI or node API. In terms of pull requests, we talked about this first one, and we also mentioned the one that Kevin had said he'd looked at a little bit last time. In terms of issues, I don't see anything sort of new. Is there anything that people have on their mind that we should be chatting about this week? Okay, if not, let's flip over to node.js/no. Oops. Choose and actually I'm going to stop the issue. I quite got the okay, right. Label node API. Okay, this one I thought was worthwhile us having a bit of a discussion here. It looks like Chenzong, you looked at it. So do you want to start with your thoughts?
Yeah. The PR is trying to clarify that API get buffer info could accept your int 8 array as its argument. So actually, I take a look into the implementation. The API get buffer info could support any array buffer view as its argument, since the underlying implementation just cast the value type to the array buffer view. Whilst compared to the NPR get typed array info, the two are quite similar. Whilst the NPR get typed array info returns the element length, which should be identical when the byte per element is 1, which means the two should be identical when the typed array is int 8 array or int 8 array. Yeah. So basically, I found that NPI get buffer info are very similar to the NPI get typed array info. So for values that are not node buffer, I think they should prefer API get typed array info over the API get buffer info.
Okay, so are you like, so is it that like we don't want to update this in this way? We might want to say use, like the recommendation is to use one of the other ones?
I'm just wondering what's the use case for applying the NPI get buffer info on the uint8 array so that we can see how it can fit in the use case, or a use
Okay.
case might better explain the issue.
Okay. So basically you're asking for more info from Ingenuity, right?
Yeah, I was wondering that maybe we can document that the API get buffer info can be deprecated or something, since necessarily node buffer is a uint8 array, you know. So we don't quite need a separate method for the node buffer to get its underlying data.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the API get type array info can also apply to a node buffer.
Right, and document that.
It's almost like it wants to be called array buffer. Get uint or get array buffer info.
No, that's a different thing. We have an API get array buffer info, but typed array is not array buffer, so there are two different API. Yeah, but the node buffer is a typed array. A node buffer is a subclass of uint8 array. So these two are quite identical in this case.
There isn't any extra info on the subclass that it returns or might return?
Basically, in my opinion, node buffer has a lot of util helper methods in addition to the uint array. So there is no additional info we can get from a node buffer.
Okay.
I think the offsets are different though.
I think they are different things. Node buffer is introduced before the uint array.
Just looking at gonna look at the head. So this is buffer info. That was added in 0.8, and then the other one. Okay, so we should have kept the. Okay, where's my, oh, maybe it's here. Ah, okay, never mind. So get buffer info and then get typed array info.
It's just down a little bit from buffer. It's 2 below.
Right, okay. Typed array. Right, they're both okay, so they both were added right at the beginning. Just gonna see if the parameters are in.
API get typed array info has a additional out parameter for the type type parameter, which indicates what type of the type array is.
Right, okay. So for buffer, it would just say it was a uint8.
Yeah, exactly. Also, the tabular info has a out parameter for the byte offset.
Okay, so I guess it's so yeah, still trying to understand a little bit more, like, yeah, if it's basically doing the same thing. So I guess you don't have any concern with marking the uint8 array as supported, but you're thinking maybe we should just deprecate it and suggest people use the other one. Is that the
Yeah, I have no concerns on the change. However, I still think it might be more intuitive to call API get tabular info when it can be used, since yeah, they are doing the same thing.
right? Right. So you're saying like maybe we shouldn't encourage that, right?
Maybe we can document that. We can change the words in the document that probably you can just use API get tabular info instead in the API get buffer info document section.
Okay. Do you want to make a suggestion as to the words that we would use there, or?
I'm still waiting for the for the use cases, if there is any.
Okay.
If not, then we can maybe change the wording to recommending the API get tabular info instead.
So the nappy get buffer info is actually used in Node add-on API and a couple places, looks like.
Pardon?
Yeah, can you just repeat that?
So I just noticed I'm looking in the Node add-on API repo, and nappy get buffer info is used under buffer ensure info. Let me check the other header. So it's used in one place. Would that also want to be switched over maybe to typed array? If you're going to deprecate the get buffer info?
I would. I'm sorry if I used a strong word. Since deprecating the method sounds like we are going to remove it, but we are never going to remove the not API function. So yeah, we can change the code side of API get buffer info in Node add-on API headers too, if it can be if it perfectly fit in the use case.
Right. I think like when we sort of deprecating quotes, I think we just move to a different file to discourage people from using it. But yeah, we're not going to remove it. Also, I guess it's probably more obvious, like, because buffers are something that are distinct from arrays, right? So it's yeah, whether we want to stop people using that or not, if we're not going to remove it, I'm not sure. So I guess it sounds like next step is I just gonna mention in the issue saying like in Ditney, hey, we're just waiting for your answer on this to make it clear. We're waiting for the answer for him to chime in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise,
Exactly.
we can rediscuss next time, it sounds like. Okay, anything more we should discuss on this one before I move on to the next ones? Shenzong, you opened this one. If there's anything you wanted to discuss or mention on that one.
Yeah, it's a follow-up issue from a previous PR from Gabriel. I found that we are returning a API status other than API pending exception when there is actually a pending JavaScript exception. So this PR is adding several test cases to verify that when calling into JavaScript, when an API calling into JavaScript and there is a pending JavaScript exception, we should return an API pending exception and API status instead of the like API invalid arg or API generic failure.
Right. Okay. I wonder if this is related to like Vladimir last week, I think it was mentioning that in the PR he was working on, there were some cases where it looked like we weren't like things that were doing allocations and stuff that didn't have the like pending JavaScript exception check. Do you think that's related to this, or is that something different as well?
I think it would be something different since it's
Okay.
about the allocation instead of a API function calling to JavaScript.
Okay. Okay. So this is a different case where maybe we should be returning that error, but aren't. And this is related, you said it's related to a PR that has that PR made it out into version like no versions yet, or is it within main or?
No, this is the behavior already shipped long ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I just found the issue when reviewing Gabriel's PR.
I just wonder if there's any chance this could break people.
Yeah, I also dig into the documentation to find if this is the expected behavior. The document, wait a minute, I'll share the link.
Sure.
The doc mentioned that after every API function call, the caller should check if there is a pending exception. Wait a minute.
Gabriel was asking if there's a needed runtime check or a runtime version check.
In my opinion, I don't think a change that matching the documentation statements should hide behind a runtime version check.
Right. I think it's related. That goes back to like, what do we think the risk is that this could break an existing add-on? If it's, I assume it's pretty low, right?
And I just posted the link in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely know that we say like you should always check for this exception. But that's what might change if they have that exception. If they are checking and they do something different, then the behavior might change, and then therefore it might, might have an effect. And we do have a fairly easy way now to like say, okay, well, we would limit that to affecting Node API 10, for example. Doesn't mean we need to, but it's a question of should we consider that or not?
Yeah, it can be an option, but I think for the bug fix that not matching the documentation would make it more complicated to maintain the Node API versioning.
Right, yeah, it does cost us something to do each of the. Sorry, Gabriel, still can't hear you, but if you're trying to say something, we'll look in the chat. Oh, okay. Hope you're feeling okay. Okay, so basically, I think it's basically throwing exceptions where we think we should have, of course, returning the error code where we should have been. And I guess Chenzong, just to confirm, like, you don't think this is really going to affect any real applications out there in a negative way?
Yeah, since we actually we have different code sets, we have different NPI functions that is returning NPI exception pending, while there is a pending JavaScript exception. The problem is that some of the NPI function, which is changed in this PR, are returning a different status code other than the NPI exception pending. So I believe people are already people can already handle the different API status code when there is either or not there is a JavaScript exception pending.
Right, okay.
Another thing that I was thinking for the compatibility check is that maybe we can run CGEM for the PR2 to see if this breaks any add-on in the wild.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Okay, anything more we should discuss on this one today?
I was curious in the examples repo, if there's some possibilities to maybe expand that and organize it a bit.
Okay, yeah, let's just, I just want to finish going through the.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no problem. Yeah, and then, but that's good. We'll put that on the next list. I don't see actually, and I don't see anything else new here. So unless there's something in Node Core, let's move over to Node add-on examples. Okay, let's do that. So sorry, yeah. And it turns out we're there anyway. So what's your suggestion there?
So when I was adding the async example I did last week, I had a hard time picking where to actually put it in there because there's a few different types of async examples. And I was wondering if they're just what you guys thought about maybe organizing the async examples a little bit and because there's some by callback, some by promises, and they're all kind of interleaved.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. It started out as a very structured, that sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we kind of moved on to adding some different things. Are you thinking maybe like a subdirectory that has like async examples and then all the examples are in there?
It's actually a good idea. And it kind of ties into, so I was doing some doc additions. There's an issue I put up in April, and just it's been taking time in order to kind of flesh it out a little bit. And I want to make sure that it's really detailed. And it might be a good opportunity to kind of put some async discussion in about how to also manage variables and data going through the async process. So I was thinking maybe like an async folder with the by callback and by promise, or but that's where I was curious what you guys thought. Maybe we put up an issue and discuss it, or I just don't really know what process to follow.
I think like opening an issue is always good because we like to capture discussion so that people can find it. But then also, discussing that issue in this group here is a good way to get some feedback and stuff as well. I don't know what other people think about arranging it, like adding some subdirectories like that. So it's like async or whatever.
And then a thread safe one as well would be another one, because there's quite a few things with thread safe functions and quite a few use cases for that.
Yeah, so Gabriel said, hey, that's a good idea, but let's add a readme.md file into the subdirectory so that they don't turn into a labyrinth, making it too hard to find what you're looking for. And then link the subdirectory readmes for the main readme. So yeah, and I think that would be a good idea to say. Hey,
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. That's something that I'll take on over the next couple weeks, and sure it'll just inside time I'll put up an issue and start. We can discuss it there.
Yeah, if you make your suggestion there, I think everybody sounds like that's receptive. Then it would probably, I think, be a good help to rein in some of the organic growth that's happened over a little while. Okay, well, thanks. Anything else that people have that we should discuss before we close out for today? If not, thanks a lot for everybody's time, and we'll see you in GitHub and next week. Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
See you online. Bye.